In the rainy heart of Seattle, William Carter, 37, a powerful tech CEO with golden hair and cold blue eyes, thought he had it all, except the one thing that mattered. Years ago, a romance ended abruptly. He believed the child from that relationship had been adopted, lost to time. But during a quiet donation visit to a foster home, William's world stops. A 10-year-old boy named Oliver, with strikingly familiar features, is reading a weathered letter. When Oliver shows it to him, William freezes. The letter describes a man that sounds exactly like him. And the boy? He's never known his father. The resemblance is undeniable. The boy's pain, his loneliness, it shakes something buried in William's heart. Is this his son? Desperate to know the truth, William takes swift action. DNA tests, medical help, even a room of books and tablets for the boy who loves to write. But Oliver, raised in the foster system, doesn't trust gifts or goodbyes. He challenges William at every step. What begins as a search for truth becomes a fight for family. Will a cold-hearted CEO find redemption through a boy's handwritten stories? And can love grow between two strangers bound by blood, but torn by time? Subscribe to see this heartfelt story unfold. A single letter changed everything. The rain in Seattle wasn't just falling, it pressed against the windows like regret. William Carter stood alone in his penthouse, framed by floor-to-ceiling glass that looked out over a city built by ambition. His own reflection stared back, cold blue eyes, tousled golden hair, and a sharp jawline hardened by years at the top. CEO of CarterNet, a tech empire, but lately success felt hollow. He rarely spoke of her, the woman from a decade ago, the one who vanished without a word after telling him she was pregnant. Everyone said the child had been adopted, and William believed them. He had to, but in quiet moments like this, he wondered. A ping broke the silence. His calendar reminded him, Foster Bridge, donation visit, 11:00 a.m. He almost canceled, but something tugged. By 11:15, William stepped into the modest foster home. The scent of worn books and disinfectant clung to the air. Children played in corners while social workers moved like tired saints. He moved with quiet grace, offering polite smiles. Then he saw him. A boy. Thin, about 10, sat curled in a beanbag by the window, sunlight spilling across his blonde hair. Blue eyes fixed on a letter in his hands. William's breath hitched. The resemblance was too sharp, too real. The boy looked up, eyes meeting his, and time split. "You okay, kid?" William asked, his voice low, steady. The boy blinked. "Just reading." William knelt beside him. "What's your name?" "Oliver," he said, clutching the paper tighter. "You?" "William." His voice softened. "Mind if I see what you're reading?" Oliver hesitated, then unfolded the letter with care. Faded ink, creased edges. William scanned the lines. To the man, with blue eyes and golden hair, "I hope someday my son meets you. If he does, be kind. He has your eyes, your stubborn heart." William's chest tightened. The words, it was her handwriting. "Who gave you this?" he asked. "My grandma, but she doesn't remember much anymore. She's sick. This was in a box with my name on it." William stared at the boy, the letter, the quiet sadness hanging in his shoulders. He whispered, "Do you know your father?" Oliver shook his head. "Mom died when I was little. She never said, but sometimes I dream about a man who looks like you." A pause. "Is that weird?" William's throat closed. "No. Not weird at all." They sat there, silence stretching between them. The boy's fingers traced the corner of the letter again and again, as if afraid it might disappear. Then William asked quietly, "Would you come with me for the day? Just to talk? Maybe get something warm to eat?" Oliver looked up, unsure. "You're not taking me away, right?" William shook his head. "Only if you want to come." They rode in silence to a hotel near the waterfront. William booked the suite with the view, ordered room service, grilled cheese and tomato soup. As Oliver ate, William called his lawyer. "I need a private investigator and a court-approved DNA kit. Today." He hung up, sat across from the boy. "You like writing?" he asked, noticing the notebook in Oliver's bag. Oliver nodded. "I make up stories. Sometimes I pretend they're letters, to people who might listen." William swallowed hard. He walked to the gift shop, came back with a small stack of blank journals, a pen set, and a soft blue backpack. "For you," he said. Oliver clutched them, eyes wide. "Why?" William paused, choosing his words. "Because someone should listen." Outside, the clouds parted just enough to let a sliver of light through. Inside, the letter rested between them on the table. It wasn't just paper. It was the beginning. The next morning, the sky over Seattle stretched gray and heavy. In the hotel suite, William stood at the window, sipping black coffee. Behind him, the room was quiet except for the scratch of a pen on paper. Oliver was curled in an armchair, writing in one of the new journals. His backpack sat open beside him, filled with the supplies William had given him. "You write a lot," William said gently, turning. Oliver glanced up. "It helps when I don't want to think about stuff." "What kind of stuff?" The boy hesitated. "Being moved around. People forgetting my name. Grandma calling me Jason sometimes." That was her brother. William's throat tightened. He crossed the room and knelt by the chair. "She raised you?" "She tried," Oliver said, "but after Mom died, she got worse. Some days she didn't know I was there, so they put me in the system." He shrugged, as if that didn't hurt. "And the letter?" William asked. Oliver reached into the side pocket of his hoodie and pulled it out again. "She gave it to me when I was 5, said it was important. Said maybe one day I'd find him. I never knew who she meant." William stared at the faded handwriting. The signature was gone, water blurred. But the mention of golden hair and blue eyes remained, etched like a memory into the page. "You look just like me," he said. Oliver laughed softly. "People say that, but nobody ever stayed long enough to explain why." Silence fell again. Then Oliver asked, "Did you know my mom?" William looked out the window, then back. "A long time ago, she was someone I cared about, but I didn't know she had a son." Oliver nodded slowly, gripping the journal. "She was scared a lot, but she read to me, told me stories she made up. I think that's why I like writing." William reached out, hand trembling slightly, and rested it on the arm of the chair. "I'm going to find out the truth," he said. "I've already hired someone. They'll look into everything. I should have done it sooner." Oliver didn't respond right away. He flipped to a new page in his journal. Then, softly, he said, "One time, a family almost adopted me, but the mom said I was too quiet." He looked up. "Is that bad?" William shook his head, firm. "No, not at all." The boy leaned forward. "Do you think I'll ever belong somewhere?" The question hit like a stone. William cleared his throat. "If it turns out you're my son, I'll never leave you again." Oliver blinked fast, but didn't speak. Moments later, the investigator called. William stepped out into the hall, phone to his ear. The voice was brisk. "Mr. Carter, I found something. Her name was Rachel Parker. She worked part-time at a bookstore in Belltown. Died 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. She left no emergency contact. No father listed on the birth certificate." William's knees buckled slightly. "No father?" "No, sir, but there's more. It appears she tried to contact your office, twice. Letters sent to Carternet's legal department, both marked, 'Return to sender.'" William's grip on the phone tightened. "She tried." "Yes, sir, she did." Back inside the room, Oliver looked up from his writing. "You okay?" he asked. William nodded, barely. "Yeah, I have some answers now." He walked over, sat beside the boy on the edge of the bed. You hungry? Oliver smiled shyly. Always. They ordered pancakes and orange juice. While they waited, William reached for the letter again, smoothing it on the table. The sun broke briefly through the clouds, lighting the paper in gold. For the first time in years, William didn't feel alone. And Oliver, watching him, quietly tore a page from his journal. He started drawing. A man with golden hair and a boy holding a letter. The DNA test kit arrived just after noon. A plain white box, unmarked, clinical, yet inside it held the answer to 10 years of silence. William set it on the table between them. Oliver stared at it, unsure. "What is it?" he asked. William took a deep breath. "A DNA test. It'll tell us if we're related." The boy blinked. "Like father and son?" William nodded. Oliver's fingers tightened around his pencil. He looked away. "You think I'm your son?" he asked quietly. William didn't answer right away. He leaned forward, voice soft. "I think there's a chance. I think your mom, Rachel, might have been trying to tell me before she passed." Oliver didn't move, but his eyes, those exact same blue eyes, glossed over. "If it's true," William added, "I want to know, and I want you to know. You deserve that." Oliver swallowed hard. What if it's not true? William looked him straight in the eye. "Then we keep looking. But no matter what, you won't go back to that place." Silence hung between them. Then Oliver slowly reached out, nodding. "'Kay?" They swabbed carefully. William placed the kit back in the box, sealed it, and called for courier pickup. When he hung up, Oliver was sketching again. This time, the drawing was of two figures sitting at a table. The small one held a pencil. The taller one had a hand on his shoulder. William sat down beside him. "That us?" Oliver shrugged. "Maybe." A knock at the door broke the quiet. It was William's lawyer, Elena Marks, sharp-eyed and practical. "We'll rush the test," she said, scanning the boy briefly. "I've also begun tracing Rachel Parker's legal trail. You're not listed anywhere." "She tried," William said. "Letters were returned. No contact." Elena nodded, her voice dropping. "Which means if the test comes back positive, you're not just next of kin, you're the only one." Oliver looked up. "Only one for what?" William turned to him gently. "To take care of you, make decisions, be your guardian, if you want that." Oliver didn't reply, but his pencil stopped moving. Later that evening, they went for a walk down by the waterfront. The air was crisp, the streets still wet from morning drizzle. William kept his pace slow. "Do you remember your mom?" he asked. "Sometimes," Oliver said. "Mostly her voice. She had a necklace with a tiny book on it. Said it reminded her of something." "What kind of book?" "She never said, but she'd hold it when she cried." William froze. He remembered it now. Rachel's charm, a silver pendant shaped like a book. He had given it to her, back when they were just kids in college. It had the words, "Write your truth," engraved inside. Oliver glanced at him. "You okay?" William cleared his throat. "Yeah, just memories." They passed a small bookstore with warm light spilling out the windows. William pointed to the display of journals. "Want to pick one?" Oliver's eyes lit up. Inside, he wandered slowly through the aisles, fingers brushing spines like they were sacred. William bought him a dark, leather-bound one, thick pages, gold trim. On the first page, Oliver wrote one sentence. The boy met a man who looked like a dream he forgot he had. That night, back at the hotel, Oliver read William the first 3 lines of his new story. When he finished, he asked, "If it says we're family, what happens then?" William didn't flinch. "Then you come home with me, for good." Oliver stared at the paper in his hands, then looked at him. "I've never had a home that stayed." William nodded slowly. "Then let's build one." And beside them on the nightstand, the leather journal sat closed, its gold trim catching the light, waiting to be filled with the truth. The next morning came with a quiet knock at the hotel suite door. William opened it, still half-dressed, and found Elena standing there, holding a sealed envelope. "It's here," she said. His breath caught. He turned toward the living room where Oliver sat cross-legged on the carpet, doodling with his new colored pencils. His blonde hair fell into his eyes as he shaded in a blue sky. William motioned her inside. "You want to open it now?" Elena asked, her voice low. William nodded, hands slightly shaking as he tore the envelope open. His eyes scanned the document. Probability of paternity, 99.998%. William froze. Elena whispered, "He's your son." Everything inside him shifted. He looked at Oliver, just sitting there, humming to himself, drawing a house under a rising sun. "Does he know?" Elena asked. William shook his head. "Not yet." He walked over and sat beside the boy, lowering himself slowly to the floor. "Hey, Oliver?" "Yeah?" Oliver said, not looking up. "I got the results." The boy stopped drawing, eyes flicking up cautiously. "And?" William smiled, tears threatening. "You're my son." Oliver stared at him. His face didn't change at first, just stillness. Then his voice cracked. "So I wasn't wrong to hope?" William reached out. "You never were." Oliver leaned into him, silently pressing his forehead to William's shoulder. William wrapped his arms around him, the boy's frame so small, so light. "I'm sorry," William whispered. "I didn't know. If I had—" Oliver interrupted softly. "You came now." The moment held like glass, fragile but clear. Later that afternoon they sat by the hotel window, watching clouds drift by. Oliver pulled his sketchpad into his lap. "Can I draw something for you?" "Of course," William said. The boy began sketching. Quiet, focused. A house again. But this time there were two figures at the door, one taller, one smaller, both smiling. Oliver added a tree beside it. In its branches he drew a bird. "What's the bird mean?" William asked. "It's something Mom said once," Oliver murmured. "When I was really little." He shaded the wings. "She told me, if I ever felt alone, just pretend I'm a bird. I can fly anywhere I want." William blinked away the sting behind his eyes. "She was brave," he said. "Yeah," Oliver nodded. "She always smiled when it rained." They sat in silence for a while. Then William said, "There's something else I need to tell you, something that might be hard." Oliver looked up, listening. "Your mom," William said carefully, She tried to reach me. She sent letters to my office. They never reached me." The boy's expression stayed calm, but his fingers tightened around the pencil. "She tried?" "She did," William said. "I think she didn't want to disturb my life. Maybe she thought she was protecting you." Oliver stared out the window. William added gently, "You were never forgotten, not by her, and now, not by me." Oliver nodded slowly. Then he whispered, "I used to pretend my dad was famous." William smiled. "Well, turns out you were right." The boy gave a faint laugh. "Do I have to call you Mr. Carter now?" "No," William said. "I'd prefer something else." Oliver tilted his head. William met his eyes. "You can call me Dad, if you want." A long pause. Then softly, Oliver said, "Okay, Dad." It was the first time the word had ever felt real, and on the sketchpad, the little bird above the house seemed to soar higher. The next day, William took Oliver to his private physician, Dr. Avery Lynn, calm, kind-eyed, and discreet. The clinic was quiet, tucked behind a bookstore in Capitol Hill, away from curious eyes. William held Oliver's hand as they stepped inside. "You don't have to be scared," he said. "I'm not scared," Oliver replied, then whispered, "Just not used to being noticed." Dr. Lynn greeted them warmly and guided Oliver through a gentle exam, checking his vitals, listening to his lungs, measuring weight and height. "Undernourished," she murmured to William. He hasn't had proper care in years. William's jaw clenched. We'll change that. When Oliver wasn't looking, Dr. Lynn added quietly, he has a scar near his rib cage, likely from a fall, but no one stitched it. William's throat tightened. Jesus. After the appointment, William bought a bag of snacks Oliver could choose himself. Trail mix, apple slices, even strawberry pocky. Back in the car, the boy clutched it like it was treasure. Is it okay if I keep the bag? He asked. William smiled. It's yours. They pulled up to the tech law firm that handled William's estate. Elena was waiting outside with a clipboard and a guarded expression. There's something you need to know, she said as they stepped into the elevator. Because there was no custody order, Oliver is technically still under the state's care. We need to petition the court immediately. William nodded. Do it. I'll cover any cost. Elena glanced at Oliver, then back at William. And the foster system may push back. You'll be scrutinized. Every decision you've made, every part of your life. I don't care, William said. Let them look. In the conference room, Oliver sat quietly while Elena gathered signatures and documents. William signed them all without hesitation. When they were done, Oliver looked up. What if they say no? William crouched beside him. Then I fight harder. Oliver's eyes softened. Promise? William nodded. I swear. That night, back at the hotel, William placed a stack of writing books on the desk. Blank journals, calligraphy pens, even a small typewriter he found at a vintage shop. Oliver ran his fingers over the keys. You got this for me? Yeah, William said. Figured you might like typing your stories, too. Oliver sat down and started pressing the keys, fascinated by the sound they made. William watched from the doorway. There was a shift happening. Slowly, quietly. Later, as Oliver got ready for bed, William stepped out onto the balcony with his phone. He called Elena. I want to file for emergency custody, he said. There was a pause. You're sure? She asked. He's mine, William said. I can't let him disappear into that system again. We'll file in the morning, but just so you know, it might not go quickly. I don't care if it takes months, William said. I'm not letting go. He hung up and returned inside to find Oliver asleep, curled beneath the covers, one arm still draped over his sketchbook. William gently pulled the journal out and flipped it open. On the last page, Oliver had drawn something new. 2 hands, one large, one small, and between them, in messy handwriting, he said he'd stay. William closed the book carefully. Then he turned out the light, sat beside the bed, and whispered, I meant it, son. I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, a storm rolled through Seattle. Rain tapped steadily against the hotel windows as William sat at the small table, staring at a file Elena had just delivered. Inside were pages from the investigator. Rachel Parker. There she was, smiling in a faded photo, her arms wrapped around a toddler version of Oliver. His blonde curls barely reached her shoulder. The caption read, Rachel and Oliver, 2017. William traced the image with his thumb. The report explained everything. Rachel had moved 3 times after their brief romance ended. She'd worked 2 jobs, no stable housing. The letters she'd sent to William's company, both returned, unopened. Then came her diagnosis, pancreatic cancer, stage 4. She never told anyone about the father. Elena's voice broke the silence. She made a note in her hospice file, said she wanted Oliver to have a chance, without disrupting your life. William's fists clenched. She was protecting him, but she also thought I wouldn't care. She didn't. No, Elena said gently. William nodded. No, she didn't. Oliver emerged from the bedroom, rubbing his eyes, holding the small book pendant. Rachel's old necklace. William froze. Where'd you get that? He asked. Oliver shrugged. It was in Mom's stuff. I keep it under my pillow. William reached out, lifting the chain gently. I gave her this, when we were barely out of college. It has words inside, Oliver whispered. William flipped it open. Write your truth. His throat closed. She kept it. Oliver looked up. Did she love you? William nodded. Yeah, she did, and I loved her too. They sat together in silence for a long while. Later that day, William took Oliver for a walk through Belltown, where Rachel once worked. They found the bookstore, still there, tucked between a bakery and a florist. The owner, an older woman named Marcy, remembered Rachel. She was quiet, sweet, loved the kids' section, Marcy said, used to read aloud to Oliver every Sunday morning. She led them to a tiny corner lined with beanbags and fairy lights. Oliver ran his hand over the spines. She said this place was magical, he murmured. Marcy handed him a worn copy of The Little Prince. She read this one the most, said it reminded her of him. Oliver opened it and smiled. I know this story. William stepped back, letting him explore. Then he spotted it, taped to the underside of the low table in the kids' corner. A note, faded ink, familiar handwriting. If you ever find this, tell him I tried. Tell him I loved him. Both of them. William touched it like it might vanish. He called Elena immediately. We'll include it in the custody filing, she said. It proves her intent, and you're right. That night, William placed the note in a glass frame and set it on the nightstand beside Oliver's bed. This was for us, he said. Oliver touched the glass gently. She was brave. Yes, William said softly. She was everything. He turned to leave, but Oliver called out, Dad? William stopped. Oliver held up his drawing. New lines, fresh ink. This one showed a boy standing between two tall trees. In the sky above was a small bird carrying a ribbon. On the ribbon were the words, She didn't leave me. She led me to you. William sat beside him, pulled him close. You're not alone anymore. And for the first time in years, William Carter didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a father. Rain turned to sun by mid-morning, and for once the skyline looked warm through the glass of William's penthouse. Oliver stood barefoot on the hardwood, staring at the shelves filled with books, tech awards, and framed patents. He turned to William, eyes cautious. Is this really where you live? William nodded, setting down his coffee. It is, and now it's yours too. Oliver didn't move. It's so big. William knelt beside him. It's just walls, kid. What matters is who's in it. He opened a door to a room freshly painted in soft blue. A desk, a bed with quilted blankets, and shelves already filled with writing supplies and graphic novels lined the walls. Oliver stepped in slowly, taking it all in. On the desk sat a small silver frame. Inside, the drawing he had made in the hotel, the bird flying above the ribbon. He smiled for the first time all day. You kept it? William nodded. I framed it. That bird, it's part of the story now. Later that afternoon, the DNA results were officially filed with the court. William signed custody papers, and though it would still take weeks for full approval, Elena told him, You're his legal guardian now, at least temporarily. William turned to Oliver, who was curled up on the sofa, typing away on his new tablet. You okay if we celebrate a little? William asked. Oliver looked up. Celebrate what? William smiled. Us. They ordered pizza. Oliver requested pepperoni with extra olives. William pretended to gag. Olives? Really? Oliver grinned. They taste like little salty balloons. William laughed harder than he had in months. That night, after pizza and 2 chapters of The Little Prince, William tucked Oliver into bed. But before turning out the light, he sat beside him. I need to tell you something, William said, his tone turning gentle. I didn't always know how to be a dad, and I still don't, but I'm learning. Oliver stared at him, serious. You don't have to be perfect, he said. You just have to stay. William felt something crack in his chest. I will. But after Oliver fell asleep, William returned to his desk, opened a private folder on his laptop, and read through the old investor emails piling up. One subject line stood out. Urgent. Media inquiries on the custody story. He clicked. Attached were news links. The story had leaked. Somehow, someone in the courthouse had tipped the press. Tech giant William Carter takes in boy from foster care. DNA confirms link. The headlines spread across screens like fire. William sat back in his chair, heart sinking. At that moment, Elena called. "I just saw it," she said. "It's going viral." "Do we know how?" he asked. "Not yet, but you should be prepared. The board will ask questions, and the public will too." He looked down the hallway toward Oliver's room. "Let them," he said. "I don't care what they think." "You might," Elena replied carefully. "Some investors are already pulling their support." William exhaled hard. But when he closed the laptop and stepped quietly into Oliver's room, the boy stirred. "Dad?" he mumbled sleepily. William crossed the floor and knelt at his bedside. "I'm here." Oliver held out his hand. The pendant necklace dangled from his fingers. "Keep it," he said, "in case you forget why you stayed." William closed his hand around it. "I won't forget," he whispered. And for the first time, William Carter, once a man consumed by code and quarterly goals, understood what legacy really meant. The next morning, William stood alone in the kitchen, pouring coffee he wouldn't drink. His phone buzzed non-stop. Emails from his board, press requests, shareholders panicking. He muted the phone and stared at the pendant Oliver had given him, still resting in his palm. "In case you forget why you stayed." But part of him already feared he might. "Dad?" Oliver's voice came from behind. William turned, quickly pocketing the necklace. "Morning, buddy." Oliver rubbed his eyes, then looked at him with a strange stillness. "Why are you dressed like that?" William glanced down. Suit, tie, cufflinks, the CEO armor. "Meeting." Oliver frowned. "You said today was our bookstore trip." William froze. He had. He'd promised. "I know," he said gently. "I'll make it up to you tonight." Oliver stepped back. "It's okay." But his voice was flat. William dropped to one knee. "Hey, I messed up. That's on me." Oliver just nodded and turned away. "It's fine. I'll just write instead." William watched him disappear into his room, the door clicking shut like a line drawn in chalk. By noon, William was in a glass-walled boardroom downtown, surrounded by executives. "You're trending," one of them said flatly, sliding his phone across the table. William didn't look. Another added, "Investors want assurance you're still focused. Parenting's commendable, but it's not strategy." "I'm not stepping down," William said. "You're distracted," the CFO snapped. "One child has thrown this company into chaos." William stood slowly. "That one child is my son." The room fell quiet. He left the meeting early, heart pounding, head aching. When he arrived home, the penthouse was too quiet. "Oliver?" he called. No answer. He found him curled under the piano bench, notebook in hand, drawing shadows. William knelt. "I shouldn't have gone today." Oliver didn't look up. "I get it. I'm just the side story." Those words shattered William. He gently took the sketch pad. On the page, a boy in a tower, staring down at the crowds below, alone. "No," William whispered. "You're the whole story now." Oliver shrugged. "That's not what it feels like." William sat down beside him on the cold floor. "I've spent years building a world with no one in it," he said. "And now I have someone. I just don't know how to balance it." Oliver looked at him, eyes guarded. "Will I go back if they say you're not good enough?" William paused. "That's not going to happen. But what if it does?" William reached into his pocket, pulled out the pendant. "I carry this every day. Not because it's hers, but because it reminds me you're real, that I'm a father now, and I won't let anyone take that from you." Oliver stared at him. Then slowly, he crawled out from under the bench. "You still want to go to the bookstore?" William smiled. "Even more now." That evening, they returned to Belltown. Oliver picked out 2 new journals. William bought them both and a third, wrapped it in brown paper, and wrote, "To the author who made me a dad." Oliver laughed. "That's cheesy." William grinned. "So are olives, but you still like them." They walked home through the evening mist side by side. Later that night, as William shut off the lights, Oliver whispered, "If you ever stop showing up, I'll stop writing." William turned back, voice steady. "Then I'll never miss a day." Outside, the city blinked with light. Inside, trust flickered brighter than ever. The following week brought a quiet shift in rhythm. William stepped back from several executive duties, turning down travel and pushing investor meetings. Elena handled the boardroom. He handled Oliver. And Oliver? He was changing too. Each morning he sat at his desk in the new bedroom William built just for him. Floor-to-ceiling windows, warm lighting, soft carpet, and shelves lined with adventure novels and blank journals. On Monday, he placed a sticky note on his door. "Working on Chapter 3. Do not disturb unless it's pancakes." William laughed when he saw it. That day, he returned from the kitchen holding a plate. Pancakes, with chocolate chips. Oliver opened the door, feigning deep concentration. "You interrupted a plot twist." William grinned. "Worth it?" Oliver nodded. "Definitely." Later that afternoon, they visited the Arts Academy. The school, tucked behind a sculpture garden, smelled of paper and watercolor. Its walls were covered with student art, dragons, landscapes, poems pinned like treasures. Oliver clung close as they walked through the halls. The director, Mrs. Sanderson, knelt to greet him. "Do you like to draw?" Oliver shrugged. "I write mostly." "Perfect," she said. "Our best artists are storytellers first." William squeezed his shoulder. "We're just visiting today. No pressure." But Oliver looked around, eyes wide. "Can I come back tomorrow?" Mrs. Sanderson smiled. "We'd love that." Back at the Penthouse, William gave Oliver a wrapped box. The boy tore it open slowly. Inside was a sleek tablet, custom engraved on the back. "Oliver Carter, author in progress." Oliver ran his fingers over the letters. "You like it?" William asked. The boy nodded, eyes shining. "It's better than I imagined." But that night, when William passed by the door, he noticed Oliver wasn't at the desk. He found him curled up behind the couch, sketch pad on his knees. "You okay?" William asked gently. Oliver didn't look up. "I didn't want to mess it up." "Mess what up?" "The room. The tablet. It's all too much. What if it disappears?" William sat beside him. "It's not going anywhere." Oliver whispered, "People always say that. Then they leave." William placed his hand over the boy's. "I'm not going to vanish, Oliver. Us, it's real." Oliver hesitated, then showed him the drawing. It was their apartment, but cracked down the middle like glass. One side had light, the other shadows. In the corner, a bird perched on a power line, watching. William stared at the picture. "Is that bird waiting?" he asked. Oliver nodded, waiting to see which side wins. William hugged him, pulling him close. "Let's give it a reason to land." The next day, they returned to the academy. Oliver sat in the front row of a writing workshop, his tablet on the table, fingers flying across the keys. William watched from the window, arms crossed, eyes misted. Mrs. Sanderson stepped beside him. "He's gifted. He's been through a lot," William said quietly. "Then he'll write stronger because of it." When they returned home that night, William found a sticky note on his desk. "Dad, look what I made." Taped beneath it was a short story, printed from the tablet. The Tower and the Feather. A tale of a lonely boy who dreamed of a father that finally arrived, not as a knight, but as a man learning how to stay. William read it twice, and then he framed it, placing it right beside the pendant. A boy's truth, written in pixels and paper. Proof they were building something neither one of them had ever dared to before. A home that held. It started with a simple gesture. William upgraded Oliver's room. New shelves, a soft gray reading chair, a personalized lamp that projected stars on the ceiling. He meant it as a comfort. But Oliver stared at the changes with his arms folded. "You moved my desk," he said flatly. "I thought you'd want more light near the window." Oliver nodded slowly. "You didn't ask." William paused. "You're right. I should have." That night, Oliver didn't write at the desk. He sat in the hallway with his knees pulled to his chest, using a clipboard and a flashlight. William watched from the doorway, heart sinking. "Why out here?" he asked. Oliver shrugged. "It's not permanent, like the rest of this." William crouched beside him. "None of this is going away." "You say that," Oliver whispered. "But what if something changes? What if I mess up?" "You won't," William said. "And even if you did, I'd still be here." Oliver didn't respond. He just kept writing. The next morning, William left early for a tech meeting but returned by noon. He entered quietly, only to find Oliver sitting under the dining table surrounded by sheets of paper and torn sticky notes. "Hey," William said gently. "What's going on?" "I couldn't find my drawing from last week," Oliver muttered. "I thought it got thrown away." William kneeled beside him, looking through the papers. "This one?" he asked, holding up a folded sheet. Oliver snatched it quickly, clutching it to his chest. "Why didn't you just ask me?" William asked. "Because I didn't want you to say it didn't matter." William exhaled. "It matters," he said. "Everything you write matters to me." That night, William cleared the entire desk and reset it. No luxury tools, just Oliver's notebook, a simple pencil case, and a small sign they made together. "This space belongs to stories that matter." Oliver stood at the door, watching. "You fixed it." William smiled. "I'm trying to listen better." Oliver walked over, sat down, and quietly began writing again. Later that week, William surprised him with an art school visit. Not just for class, but for display. One of Oliver's short stories was pinned in the main hallway. "The Bird That Stayed." Other parents passed by, nodding with interest. A girl read it aloud, her voice soft. When she finished, she said, "I wish I could write like that." Oliver flushed and whispered to William, "That's the first time anyone's read my stuff out loud." "You earned it," William said. "They're finally seeing what I've seen since day one." But, later, as they left the school, Oliver looked up. "What if I start to believe them, and then it all disappears again?" William stopped walking. "Then I'll remind you, every single day, that your voice isn't temporary." Oliver looked away. Then barely above a whisper he said, "Sometimes I still pack my bag at night, just in case." William's chest tightened. "You don't have to anymore." Oliver nodded. "I know, but it takes time to unlearn leaving." That night, when William walked into Oliver's room to say goodnight, something was different. The lights were dimmed, the tablet rested on the desk, and Oliver was in bed, blanket tucked, sketchbook at his side. Before William could speak, Oliver looked over and said softly, "You don't have to stay, but if you want to, you can sit a while." William pulled up the reading chair, quietly taking the seat. Oliver smiled just once, then turned out the lamp, and under the stars projected on the ceiling, father and son found peace not in gifts, but in presence. Saturday morning arrived with gray skies and a gentle drizzle, the kind of Seattle weather that made you want to stay inside and create something beautiful. William was making pancakes, again, with too many blueberries this time. Behind him, Oliver sat at the kitchen island, chin propped on his hands, watching the batter sizzle. "I wrote something," Oliver said suddenly. William turned off the stove. "Yeah?" The boy nodded and slid a folded paper across the counter. "It's a story about a boy who learns the man he calls Sir is actually his dad. But instead of getting mad, he teaches the dad how to fly paper airplanes." William smiled, unfolding the page slowly. At the bottom was a small sketch, a paper plane with two stick figures holding the tail together. "That's us," Oliver said softly. William reached across the counter, resting his hand over Oliver's. "It's perfect." After breakfast, they sat in the living room, laptops open. William worked on a new prototype pitch. Oliver typed in his latest chapter. At one point, Oliver looked up. "How did you start your company?" William closed his laptop. "I was 25, alone, sleeping in my car for a few weeks. I had an idea for a security app. I built it in 3 months using borrowed Wi-Fi from a coffee shop. One night, it crashed. But the crash saved the system." Oliver tilted his head. "Wait, it worked because it failed?" "Exactly," William said. "Sometimes what breaks you builds you." Oliver leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "Sounds like a story." "It is," William replied. "Want to write it with me?" The boy's face lit up. "Co-author?" William nodded. Co-authors. They began that night. Oliver asked all the questions: what code looked like, how to pitch to investors, why William slept in a Honda Civic. William answered every one. Then he asked Oliver questions too, about foster homes, favorite teachers, the first time he picked up a pencil and felt safe. By midnight, they had 3 pages. On Sunday afternoon, as rain pattered the windows, Oliver ran into William's office waving a notebook. "Look what I made, Dad." The word stopped William cold. It was the first time Oliver had said it unprompted. No hesitation, no doubt. He looked up, eyes wet. "You called me." Oliver grinned, holding out the page. "We needed a cover design." Drawn in pencil was a city skyline, a laptop, and a boy handing a paper airplane to a man in a suit. "Title?" William asked. "The Launch," Oliver said proudly. William nodded. "Perfect." Later that evening, they printed the first draft, stapled it by hand, and placed it on the living room shelf, next to the pendant, the framed bird sketch, and the story about the tower. Each item now a thread in their growing tapestry. At bedtime, as William pulled the blanket over Oliver, the boy whispered, "You think anyone else would want to read it?" "Absolutely," William said. "You know why?" "Why?" "Because it's honest. And brave, just like you." Oliver closed his eyes, smile barely visible beneath the quilt. Outside, the rain quieted. Inside, 2 authors, father and son, had begun writing not just stories, but a life. Together. The first headline broke on a Wednesday. Tech Titan's secret son discovered after 10 years. DNA confirmed. By noon, William's inbox had collapsed under the weight of media requests and investor concerns. The photo circulating was innocent. William kneeling beside Oliver at the Arts Academy, both smiling at a story posted on the wall. But the caption twisted it. "Is this the CEO's new PR move?" William shut his laptop and walked into the living room where Oliver sat, cross-legged, building a miniature book from construction paper and string. "Hey, Bud," William said softly. "Something's come up." Oliver looked up. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," William said quickly. "No, not at all. It's about me. The press found out. They're saying untrue things." Oliver swallowed hard. "Will I have to go back?" William knelt beside him. "Never. You're my son, Oliver. That doesn't change, no matter what they say." That night, a board member called, then 2 more. "We support your choice," one said, "but the optics—" "I'm not discussing optics," William cut in. "I'm raising my child." He hung up. The next morning, he walked into his own company's boardroom and placed a printed copy of Oliver's short story on the table. "Before you talk strategy," he said, "read this. It's why I'm not backing down." A long silence followed. Then, a quiet voice from the end of the table said, "He's talented." William nodded. "He's also my priority." Later, as William picked Oliver up from school, a photographer lurked outside the gates. Oliver's shoulders stiffened. William opened the car door, shielding him. "You're safe. I promise." That night, as rain tapped the windows, William sat on the floor of Oliver's room. "I want you to hear this," he said. He opened his laptop and played a video from the company's new press release. William's voice came through the speakers, calm but firm. "Yes, I'm a CEO. But more importantly, I'm a father. A boy spent years thinking no one wanted him. That ends now. We build companies with vision. Let's build homes with heart. Oliver stared at the screen. You said that? William nodded. Every word. Oliver leaned his head on his father's shoulder. Does that mean I can keep writing stories about us? Only if I get co-author credit, William smiled. That weekend, a journalist reached out, this time to profile their bond, not to attack it. She sat on the living room couch while Oliver handed her a storybook they'd built together. On the cover was a drawing of a rocket ship made of paper and pencils, with two stick figures waving from the top. The title read, Fathers Don't Always Land. Sometimes they fall from the sky. The article went live Monday morning. By Tuesday, donations poured into the foster literacy fund William had quietly started in Oliver's name. By Wednesday, his team proposed a new company campaign, one that spotlighted foster voices, not market share. But most importantly, on Thursday night, as William tucked Oliver into bed, the boy whispered something new. Dad? Yeah? I know the world's watching now. William waited. Oliver turned over and said softly, I'm not scared anymore. William bent down and kissed his forehead. Neither am I. And just before he turned out the light, Oliver added, Tomorrow, let's start the next chapter. William smiled. It's already begun. The day of the tech conference arrived gray and cool, the kind of morning Seattle wore like a familiar coat. William stood backstage, heart pounding beneath the tailored suit. He glanced down at Oliver's drawing in his pocket, the paper airplane, soaring above two figures holding hands. It was their symbol now, hope, trust, and the courage to start anew. The auditorium filled quickly, seats buzzing with anticipation. Industry leaders, journalists, and investors all waited for CarterNet's keynote. When William stepped onto the stage, silence swept over the crowd. He began without hesitation. Good morning. I'm William Carter, CEO of CarterNet, yes, but today I'm here as a father. Murmurs rippled through the audience. William's voice stayed steady. Some months ago, I discovered I had a son I never knew. Oliver grew up in foster care, moving through a system that often forgets the children it's supposed to protect. He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. Right now, there are over 400,000 children in foster care across the United States. Many like Oliver, brilliant, resilient, and searching for belonging. Behind him, a screen lit up with statistics and photos of foster youth. William continued, We build empires with innovation and strategy, but what about building futures with compassion and commitment? He told Oliver's story, brief, poignant, the letter that changed everything, the moments of doubt, the fight for custody, the challenges they faced. And through it all, William said, I learned that business acumen means nothing if you cannot lead with your heart. A hush fell. CarterNet is launching a new initiative, the Right to Belong program. It funds literacy and creative arts for foster children nationwide, giving them a voice and a chance to heal. Oliver's drawing appeared again on the screen, the paper airplane. William smiled, voice thick with emotion. Because every child deserves to fly. After the speech, questions came fast. Skeptics doubting William's focus, investors concerned about his priorities. But when William spoke about Oliver, his voice rang true. One board member later said, He's not just saving a kid, he's changing how we measure success. Backstage, William found Oliver waiting, eyes wide and hopeful. You did it, Dad. William knelt down. We did it, Oliver. Oliver handed him a small notebook, handwritten, titled, Flying Together. I made it for you. William flipped through the pages filled with stories, sketches, and memories. Tears welled. That's the best thing I've ever received. Outside, cameras flashed, voices clamored. But inside, in that quiet moment, two hearts beat as one, and together they soared toward a new horizon. Months later, the small community center buzzed with energy. Children from foster homes filled the room, their laughter mixing with the soft rustle of pages turning and pencils scratching. William stood at the back, watching Oliver read aloud from the latest story they'd written together. His voice was steady now, confident, a far cry from the quiet boy who once hid behind corners. The story was about a paper airplane that carried a father's promise across skies and storms. Oliver looked up from the book, eyes catching William's. "Look what I made, Dad." William's chest swelled with pride. After the reading, William stepped to the podium. "Thank you all for coming," he began, voice warm but resolute. 400,000 children are in foster care across this country. Thousands grow up without a voice, without a champion. He gestured toward Oliver. "This boy changed my life. He taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up every day." He announced a new foundation, funding creative arts programs for foster youth nationwide, ensuring children like Oliver would have the tools and support to tell their own stories. As applause filled the room, Oliver slipped William a small, wrapped package. "Open it later," he whispered. Back at home, William unwrapped it to find a handwritten book, bound simply but carefully. Inside were stories, drawings, and memories, every page a step in their journey from strangers to family. On the final page, a note read, "To Dad, thank you for staying, for believing, for making me feel like I belong." William closed the book, tears blurring his vision. He looked up to see Oliver watching him, hopeful. "I belong here," Oliver said softly. "You always have," William replied, and in that moment, amidst stories and stars, two hearts sealed a bond stronger than time, loss, or fear. Together they had built a legacy, one not measured by wealth but by love, trust, and the power to heal. The future was theirs, and this was only the beginning.